My boyfriend laughed at my handmade candles. Then Target called me with a contract. What started as mockery became the catalyst for building something real, and discovering that his laughter said more about him than it ever said about my business. I'm Sophia Martinez, and this is the story of how I built a multimillion-dollar company while my boyfriend built a bridge back to me, one I ultimately decided not to cross. My journey started in 2019, 3 years after graduating college. I was working a corporate job that paid well but felt empty. Marketing coordinator for a pharmaceutical company, sitting in a cubicle, managing campaigns for products I didn't believe in. I'd always been creative, always had side projects, but I'd chosen stability over passion. That's when I met Derek Thompson at a happy hour with friends. He was charming, confident, worked in tech, made good money. He seemed like the kind of guy who had his life together. We started dating in November 2019. Derek was supportive at first. We'd spend weekends hiking, trying new restaurants, traveling. But about 6 months into our relationship, something shifted. Derek became dismissive of any goal or interest that didn't align with what he considered practical success. When I mentioned wanting to learn guitar, he said, "You'd never stick with it. You're not disciplined enough." When I applied for a writing workshop, he said, "What's the point? Nobody makes money writing." When I mentioned wanting to start a side business, he said, "With what capital? You don't have enough saved." I was dating someone who made me smaller with every conversation. In early 2021, during the pandemic lockdowns, I was home constantly. My corporate job went fully remote, which meant I was working from my apartment in my pajamas. I had time and space I'd never had before. I started making candles as a way to manage stress. I'd always loved the way a good candle could transform a room, but commercial candles were expensive and generic. I researched wax, fragrance oils, wicks, containers. I experimented with scents that reflected the seasons and my emotions. The first batch I made for my apartment was so successful that my roommate asked if I'd make some for her. Then her friends asked. Then I started gifting them to family members for Christmas 2021. Everyone loved them. Not in a polite, "Oh, that's nice" way. They actually loved them. They asked for specific scents, wanted to know if I could make them again, asked if I'd sell them. Derek watched me pouring wax and blending fragrances one evening and made a face. "What is this?" "You're like, making a craft project. How is this different from a hobby?" "I'm thinking about selling them." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Sophia, you can't sell candles. That market is completely saturated. Every girl on Etsy is selling candles now. You'd make maybe $50 before you spent $300 on supplies." "I think it could be. It won't be. You're not an entrepreneur, Sophia. You're having fun with a hobby. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't pretend it's a business plan." The mockery hurt more than I wanted to admit. But something in me hardened. I decided to try it anyway. In January 2022, I launched my candle business, Ember and Light. I invested $2,000 of my savings into supplies. I created my website. I took photos of the candles in natural light. I posted on Instagram and TikTok with no followers and no expectations. The first month, I sold exactly 12 candles for a total of $360. Derek didn't say, "I told you so," but he didn't need to. His eye roll when I told him about my sales spoke volumes. But I kept going. I made candles at night and on weekends. I improved my photography. I studied other small business owners. I engaged with the candle-making community online. I was learning constantly. By March 2022, I was selling 30 candles per month. By June, 70. By September, nearly 200. I was still making everything by hand in my small apartment, but it was growing. Derek's dismissiveness grew proportionally with the business. The more successful I became, the smaller he tried to make me feel. "Candles are for basic people," he'd say. "You're pandering to people with no taste. Why do you spend so much time on something that makes you almost nothing? You could be using this energy to advance at work instead of wasting time with this hobby." His comments weren't just criticism, they were character assassination. He wasn't attacking the business, he was attacking me. By December 2022, I was making about $4,000 per month from candle sales. Combined with my corporate job, I was doing okay financially. But more importantly, I was excited about something for the first time in years. Derek was increasingly angry about how much time I spent on the business. He'd make comments about me being selfish for prioritizing candles over our relationship. He'd criticize the way my apartment smelled like fragrance oils. He'd mock my little hobby in front of his friends. There was one specific moment that changed everything for me. I was at Derek's apartment making candles. I'd started carrying my supplies because I had limited space at home. Derek came home from work early and found me in his kitchen, wax warming on the stove. "Sophia, are you seriously making those things in my apartment? I needed more space and you said I could use." "I didn't say you could turn my home into a candle factory. This smells like a Bath and Body Works. You're being unfair. This takes maybe an hour." He grabbed my supplies and moved them to the corner. "Keep it contained. And frankly, I don't understand why you're still doing this. It's embarrassing. My colleagues know I'm dating someone. I don't want them knowing I'm dating someone making candles in my kitchen. It's embarrassing that I'm building a business. It's embarrassing that you're doing a hobby you'll never monetize at any real level. You're 30 years old, Sophia. You should be thinking about your career, your future, where you want to be in 5 years. Not playing with scented wax. I sat there feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't someone who loved me. Someone who loves you doesn't make you feel ashamed of your dreams. This was someone who needed me to stay small so he could feel big. I want to end this, I said quietly. What? Bus. I want to end our relationship. Because I criticized your candles? Because you criticized me. And I'm tired of it. We broke up that night. It was surprisingly uncomplicated. Derek seemed relieved, like he'd been waiting for permission to leave. I moved the last of my stuff out the next week. Suddenly, I had space, physical, mental, emotional, that I'd been missing for 2 years. I threw myself completely into the candle business. I quit my corporate job, which was risky but necessary. I was leaving money on the table. My marketing skills could have taken me to a 6-figure job. But I was done building something I didn't believe in, while someone who loved me, or claimed to, was mocking me for building something I did believe in. I rented a small studio space. I hired my first employee. I expanded my product line to include candle gift sets and room sprays. I invested in better packaging. In April 2023, I posted a video to TikTok showing my candle making process. I was just documenting my day, the repetition and care that went into each candle. No fancy editing, no filter, just real footage of my hands mixing fragrance into melted wax. That video went viral. It got 4.2 million views in 2 weeks. Suddenly, I had orders I couldn't fulfill. People were messaging asking how to buy, when I'd restock, what new scents I was developing. My website crashed from the traffic. That's when Target discovered me. A category manager for home goods had seen the viral video and was impressed with the quality and aesthetic. They reached out about carrying Ember and Light in 2,500 Target locations nationwide. The contract was worth $800,000 in the first year, with projected growth. They wanted to scale production, which meant I had to do something I'd been avoiding. Hire a manufacturer instead of making everything by hand. It was both exciting and terrifying. Scaling meant risking the quality and authenticity that had made the business work. But it also meant growth, stability, and the chance to build something much bigger. I hired a production manager and a small manufacturing team. I maintained strict quality control. The Target candles were identical to my handmade versions, just produced at scale. The Target launch happened in September 2023. Within 3 months, Ember and Light was one of the top-selling candle brands in Target's home goods category. I was on magazine covers. I was interviewed for podcasts about female entrepreneurship. I was invited to speak at business conferences. My net worth went from $50,000 to $2.3 million in less than a year. I moved into a beautiful loft in downtown Seattle. I bought a Tesla. I traveled to Thailand and Morocco and Iceland. I was living the life I'd dreamed about while sitting in a cubicle making pharmaceutical marketing campaigns. In February 2024, about 4 months after the Target launch, I got a text from Derek. "Hey, I saw you on the cover of Forbes. Congrats. Can we talk?" I should have ignored it. I had my answer. But I was curious what he wanted. We met for coffee, a neutral location. Derek looked good, he always did, but he also looked uncomfortable. "Sophia, I want to apologize," he started. "I was wrong about your candles. I was wrong about you. I was jealous of your creativity and your passion, and instead of supporting you, I mocked you. That was cruel." "It was cruel," I agreed. "I've been following your success. I'm really proud of you." "Are you?" "Yeah. I know I have no right to be proud, but I am." Derek spent the next 30 minutes talking about how he'd been thinking about me, regretting what he'd said, wishing he could have been supportive. He suggested we grab dinner sometime, or maybe try dating again now that I was successful. I listened and tried to feel something. Gratitude for the apology, nostalgia for who we'd been, hope that he'd changed. I felt nothing. "Derek, I appreciate you acknowledging what you did." "I do. But I don't want to date you again." "Why not? Everything's different now. You've built something incredible. You're successful. You're happy." "Exactly. I'm successful and happy, and I did that without you. In fact, I did it better without you. You mocked me when I needed support. You tried to make me feel small when I was trying to be brave. And now that I'm successful, you want back in. That's not fair. People change, Sophia. I've changed. Maybe you have. But I haven't forgotten who you were. And more importantly, I've learned who I am when I'm not being criticized and diminished." Derek tried a few more angles, appealing to nostalgia. "Remember when we went to that concert?" Suggesting we could be just friends first, reminding me of the good times we'd had. None of it worked because I realized something fundamental. Derek had never believed in me. He'd been attracted to me, comfortable with me, but he'd never believed I could do something extraordinary. When I started building Ember and Light, he felt threatened, so he tried to keep me small. That wasn't love. That was control. I didn't publicly expose Derek or go on a media tour talking about how he'd mocked me. I didn't name him in interviews or use him as a cautionary tale. What would be the point? The business didn't succeed because Derek mocked me. It succeeded because I worked incredibly hard to build something real. But I also didn't pretend he hadn't mattered. I acknowledged in my personal growth that I'd learned what I didn't want in a partner. Someone who mocks your dreams instead of supporting them, someone who needs you to stay small to feel big. I gave one interview where I was asked about overcoming obstacles and I mentioned carefully and without naming names. I had someone tell me that my business would never work, that I wasn't capable of being an entrepreneur, that I was wasting my time. And instead of believing them, I chose to believe in myself. But I also learned something more important. People who love you don't tell you your dreams are impossible. They might caution you about the challenges, but they don't mock you or try to diminish you. If someone is consistently making you feel small, that's a sign they don't deserve you. Ember and Light continued growing. By the end of 2024, we were in 6,000 retail locations. Revenue was projected to hit $12 million for the year. I'd built a team of 40 people, all of whom believed in the mission, creating beautiful candles that brought joy and light into people's homes. I started dating again in mid-2024 cautiously. I dated someone who was genuinely excited about my success, who asked thoughtful questions about the business, who supported my work even when it meant I was busy or traveling. I met someone who looked at me like Derek never did, with genuine admiration and belief in my capabilities, not threatened by my success but inspired by it. I don't know if this relationship will last, but I know it will be based on mutual support instead of one person trying to keep the other small. Derek tried reaching out one more time in November 2024, suggesting that maybe I'd had time to think, that we should give it another chance. I didn't respond. There's nothing cruel about that silence. It's just recognition that some people are meant to be chapters in your story, not the entire book. The candles that Derek mocked became a $12 million company. The business he said would never work became one of the fastest growing brands in the home goods category. The woman he told wasn't capable of being an entrepreneur built something that millions of people love. But here's the thing. None of that changed who I am as a person. If Target had never called, if the viral video never happened, if the business had grown to only $100,000 per year, I still would have been worthy of respect and support. I still would have been building something real. My success didn't validate me. My success validated my belief in myself, which had existed long before Derek's mockery and continued long after his apology. The real power wasn't in proving him wrong. The real power was in knowing I was right about myself even when no one else believed in me. Thanks for following this journey from mockery to millions. Sometimes the people who bring you down are actually pointing you toward the people you need to leave behind. Until we meet again, folks. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your thoughts.